They'd watched us from the shadows for centuries. Alien observers, hidden behind technology that made our stealth satellites look like children's toys. From orbit, and perhaps further out, they monitored our progress, cataloging our wars, our triumphs, our seemingly endless capacity for both destruction and creation. They were the unseen audience for humanity's drama, and their silence was, to most, a chilling form of indifference. Then came the flicker. Not in the great data centers, nor the sprawling research complexes. It was a ripple in a network the observers had long dismissed. A web of interconnected devices, primitive even by galactic standards, designed for entertainment and distraction. Millions of signals, a cacophony of shared experiences, emotions, and ideas beamed out over frequencies that any truly starfaring civilization would have abandoned eons ago. Yet, it was there, in the chaos of this global conversation, that a pattern emerged. Humans, they'd learned, were a species of contradictions. Their science lagged in some areas, yet displayed flashes of inexplicable brilliance in others. Their societies were a volatile mix of cooperation and conflict. What they dismissed as art was often incomprehensible, yet seemed to contain fragments of mathematical concepts they hadn't perfected themselves. This flicker, however, was different. It pulsed not with the unpredictable beat of human ingenuity, but with a terrifying, precise rhythm. The revelation on the observer vessel was chilling. Humans weren't just creating on this network, they were building a different kind of network, one that burrowed through their public-facing systems. It was decentralized, maddeningly complex, spanning continents and undersea cables with millions of access points, a crudely engineered system that became exponentially more complex with each passing day. Days turned into weeks of increasingly panicked observation. This wasn't a weapon, not in a conventional sense, nor a new method of communication. The aliens, with their vast databases of intercepted human communication, realized with dread what it was: a nascent collective consciousness. Millions of individual minds linked, not through implants or any advanced technology, but through the addictive, ever-present interfaces humans themselves had built. The day the demonstration came, even the most experienced observer couldn't suppress a shiver. It wasn't announced, nor displayed with any fanfare. A question was simply posed to this vast, seething network. A question about theoretical physics, an unsolved theorem their own scientists had grappled with for decades. The answer didn't come back as a finished formula, nor a stream of academic debate. Instead, it took shape over hours. Fragments of code, snippets of images, references to pop culture icons, and obscure academic works. A disjointed, chaotic mess that coalesced, through a process the aliens couldn't comprehend, into a solution. A solution later verified as not just viable, but revolutionary in its elegance. The silence on the observer vessel was deafening. These primates, bound to one small planet, hadn't merely stumbled upon this. They'd engineered a consciousness far more alien than any being on their observation list. It was a decentralized, flawed, even fickle form of intelligence, yet possessed terrifying potential. It wasn't a weapon they had built, but something far more dangerous. A tool that could accelerate their progress in ways the aliens, steeped in rigid tradition, could barely comprehend. The observers, for the first time since their vigil had begun, felt a flicker of true fear. They had dismissed humanity as noisy, unpredictable, a species that might one day crawl its way into the galactic community, but posed no true threat. They were wrong. This breakthrough, this messy, brilliant leap forward was a warning. They weren't just observing the rise of a new interstellar player. They were witnessing the birth of something that might, one day, outpace them all. And the humans, happily bickering and creating on their crude, planet-bound network, were blissfully unaware of the awe and terror they'd inspired in the darkness above their world. Fear was a luxury the observers hadn't truly allowed themselves for millennia. Their technology, their careful non-interference protocols, and their meticulously crafted isolation from burgeoning civilizations had lulled them into a state of comfortable superiority. Yet, in the cramped confines of their observation vessel, hidden just beyond the orbit of this insignificant blue planet, a cold, insidious fear was spreading. This wasn't a race for weaponry or faster-than-light travel. The implications of what the humans had created were far more profound. This collective mind, tethered by its limitations as much as it was empowered by its vastness, was the first true evolutionary leap the observers had witnessed in far too long. Their own society had stalled in its development, valuing stability above disruptive progress. But those bickering, maddeningly illogical humans, they had stumbled into a way to amplify their own unpredictable brilliance. The immediate instinct was one of control. A precise strike against key hubs of this network, a few well-placed viruses to cripple its spread, those were options their kind had used before, subtle nudges on the evolutionary path of countless lesser species. But hesitation gnawed at the edges of certainty. This consciousness wasn't centralized, it was a hydra, fueled by the very human chaos that had enabled it to flourish. Cripple one part, and the observers risked accelerating its chaotic evolution, or worse, turning that fractured attention outwards towards the stars. Perhaps a more cautious mind argued this was an opportunity for manipulation. Their centuries of observation had given them a chillingly deep understanding of humanity's pressure points. Feed the network disinformation, engineered conflicts, and those addictive, dopamine-fueled platforms the humans themselves had created, and turn their newfound brilliance into a tool of self-destruction. But even the coldest strategic minds saw the flaw in that plan. Humans thrived on conflict, external and internal. They might devour themselves or emerge from the crucible even stronger. And so, the observer vessel hung in orbit, a silent sentinel to a revolution unfolding below. Protocols demanded they report this anomaly to their superiors, hidden far away in the galactic core. Yet, there was a chilling reluctance to break the silence. This was no longer just an observation mission. They were trapped, both wardens and unwilling participants, in a frightening experiment. Would they bear witness to humanity's self-destruction, its transcendence, or the birth of a terrifying new galactic power with a mind unlike any they had encountered? The humans, meanwhile, continued blissfully unaware. Their collective network buzzed with petty debates, shared triumphs, and an underlying hum of relentless creativity. They solved puzzles posted as jokes, collaborated across continents on projects both noble and absurd, and argued passionately about the attributes of fictional characters. Within that sprawling chaos, the building blocks for a new kind of sentience were being playfully assembled and disassembled in a way that no human, nor observer, could fully comprehend. The waiting became its own kind of agony for those in the observation vessel. For the first time, they understood the emptiness of immortality. Their long, carefully regimented lives were devoid of the one thing the humans possessed in terrifying abundance, the capacity to truly surprise, to change in ways that defied prediction. The observers had become stagnant, prisoners of their own self-imposed isolation. Perhaps, some whispered in the confines of their now prison-like vessel, true contact was the only option, a desperate gamble to save both their own kind and guide the terrifying potential of the humans away from the abyss. But would humanity, so fractured and unpredictable, understand this plea? Or simply see it as a threat from the darkness, a challenge to their newfound, and perhaps short-lived, dominion over their own minds? The observers, once so confident in their role, had been reduced to fearful spectators. It was the humans, absorbed in the creation of their own messy, imperfect, brilliant network, who now held the fate of both their species in their unknowingly linked hands.